Welcome to Top Stories Hub. Today we've got a new story. Can you guess how it ends? I woke up that morning with a little jitter in my chest, totally sure it'd be the greatest day I'd ever have. For years, I'd pictured a wedding bursting with love and good vibes, a big party to kick off a marriage that'd lead to an awesome future. While I slipped into my suit and fiddled with my tie, I could practically see it all in my head, a lively, cozy hall in New York City, the quiet buzz of folks wishing us well, and, best of all, Emily's dazzling grin as she strutted down the aisle. But all that planning didn't get me ready for the disaster that was about to smash my hopes to bits. I walked into that fancy hall, the air buzzing with excitement and a low hum of chit-chat. Everything was set up just right, the flowers looked like a work of art, the lights bounced off shiny surfaces, and gentle tunes floated around us. My chest puffed up when I spotted Emily, drop-dead gorgeous in her wedding gown, the perfect picture of elegance and charm I'd held on to forever. But as I started shaking hands and saying hi to our guests, a weird vibe started sneaking up on me. Emily's folks were perched at their table, stiff as boards with empty wine glasses, their faces as icy as the slick stone walls around us. I wondered for a sec if they were just nervous or if something bigger was off. While I worked the room, chatting with friends and family, trying to soak up every second of what was supposed to be a blast, I didn't catch the storm brewing right under my nose. Out of nowhere, Emily cut through the happy noise and charged straight at me. Her face, usually warm and welcoming, was twisted up with rage, her eyes flashing with the anger that stopped me cold. "You didn't get my parents any wine," she yelled, her voice bouncing off the walls and shutting down the laughter that had been everywhere just a minute ago. I fumbled for words, stuttering, What are you talking about?" But I couldn't even wrap my head around it before she acted. Her hand flew up fast, smacking my cheek hard. The sound got swallowed up by the gasps and whispers that broke out all around. Right then, the happy glow of the day turned into a scorching shame that hit me like a freight train. I caught the stunned look on my mom's face and the wide-eyed stares from our guests, every one of them quietly judging me. Emily's voice sliced through the tense quiet, sharp and unforgiving. "You've insulted my parents. Say sorry now, or get out." Her tone left no room for debate, and that slap stung way worse than just my skin, it hit my soul. I glanced around, stunned, feeling every harsh look pressing down on me as I tried to make sense of the madness. The place, once alive with happiness, was now humming with mutters and frowns. In that split second, everything I'd counted on, love, support, a future together, fell apart right in front of me. With a sinking heart and shaky determination, I turned my back on Emily, walking away from the party and the whole dream I'd clung to. Every step out of that hall dragged with grief and hurt. That burning mark on my face stuck with me, a cruel nudge that this day, meant to kick off something amazing, had turned into the start of a lonely, brutal slide. New York City's bright lights faded into a blurry mess of crushed dreams, leaving me by myself with a scrambled head and a heart that hurt every time I breathed. How could a day meant for joy go so horribly wrong? I kept asking myself that. And as the minutes ticked by, the hard truth sank in. My wedding had morphed into my worst freaking nightmare. I wandered those busy streets, my brain spinning with questions and my chest weighed down by gloom. I'd been expecting smiles and love, but instead, I got slapped with cold, hard reality, a reality where yesterday's promises got swapped out for betrayal's sting. Emily's furious glare, her shouting, and that vicious slap kept looping in my mind like a bad rerun. Right then, it hit me. Even the best-laid plans can blow up in a heartbeat, leaving you with nothing but heartache and what-ifs. This day, supposed to launch a lifetime, ended in a way I'd never have guessed, and I knew things were changed forever. I stumbled out of the venue into the chilly grip of crisp fall air, each cold gust hitting my skin and mixing with the numb shock still pumping through me. The mess back there, the hall full of hushed voices and cold stares, felt like it was miles away as I roamed New York's packed streets. My head was a tornado of hurt and confusion, and every step away from that damned party felt like lugging a ton of bricks. Betrayal's sour taste stuck in my mouth as I tried to patch together what the hell just happened. I yanked out my phone and saw it was already lighting up with messages. Texts from my best man, Tyler, popped up, packed with worry and a touch of, what the heck, plus missed calls from my family, all asking the same thing, you okay, man? Where'd you go? Those non-stop pings didn't do squat to lighten the load inside, they just piled onto the sinking feeling of being lost in a wreckage of broken dreams. I fought the itch to text back, choosing instead to keep trudging through the night, letting the city's noise wash out the echoes of that awful day. Each step felt like wading through my own messed up thoughts, every one a jab at the embarrassment I'd taken. Emily's pissed-off face, the jolt of her slap, and the disbelief in my mom's eyes kept playing on repeat in my head. It was like I was trapped in a cycle, every angry, baffled moment burned into me deep. I racked my brain, trying to figure out how it all went south so fast. Did I miss something that morning? Were there hints I didn't catch? But no answers came as I drifted along. Every corner I turned, every stranger's face, screamed at me about the life I thought I was stepping into. Then my phone buzzed again. Emily's name lit up the screen, and just seeing it sparked a wild mix of anger, pain, and this deep, gut-wrenching betrayal. I let it ring out to voicemail, figuring quiet was better than dealing with her panicked tone. I stood there a few minutes, zoned out, wrestling with whether I could ever trust the girl I'd loved so much. I thought back to what Tyler said earlier, that I hadn't screwed up, that she was just pulling some power trip. Even now, with the cold wind slapping my face, his words rang true in a way I couldn't shake. A bit later, the phone went off again, stubborn as hell. I paused, then finally picked it up. Emily's voice came through, shaky and begging. "Come back, please," she said, sounding desperate, but it just dug the knife in deeper. I let out a bitter chuckle before firing back, "You made a fool of me, Emily, in front of everybody. Why would I drag myself back there?" My words cut sharp, full of hurt and shock, and even though I tried to keep it together, my voice wobbled with all the letdown I was carrying. After a quick silence, she dropped to a hushed, sorry tone. "I messed up, okay? Just come back." It sounded hollow, like a weak stab at wiping away what she'd done, but it couldn't patch the giant hole she'd ripped open. I hung up fast, feeling like that click sealed something shut. Right then, it sank in, she'd picked her path way before, and now I was stuck dealing with mine. Standing there alone on that crowded street, it felt like time just froze, trapping me in this pit of hopelessness and letdown. The neon glow and far-off traffic sounds didn't lift me up, they just hammered home the ugly truth that my wedding day, the one I'd built up as the start of something great, had turned into the kickoff of a lonely, regret-filled spiral. Every move I made was pulling me away from a future that wasn't mine anymore, one all tangled up in lies and shame. I kept walking, letting the city's racket fill the empty space Emily left behind. My heart throbbed with every gulp of air, but this tiny, tough part of me kept whispering that maybe this rough road was steering me towards something better, a life without betrayal's dark cloud, maybe even a shot at real happiness. That cold, lonely night, I made up my mind, I wasn't gonna let this crap define me for good. Sure, I felt busted up inside, but I'd figure it out, piece myself back together, and keep moving, one shaky step at a time. After that rough, miserable night, I knew I couldn't just sit there, I had to get some answers, and I wasn't gonna figure it out solo. Emily's stunt had me spinning, but it hit me fast that I needed to lean on the people who actually gave a damn about me. First thing I did was call up Tyler, my best man and the guy who's never sugar-coated a thing, even when it stung. I punched in his number, and in no time, his worried voice came through. "Dude, I heard about the mess. You holding up okay?" he said, sounding both freaked out and kinda pissed. I laid it all out for him, the wild mess at the wedding, that humiliating smack Emily landed on me, and the icy, blaming words that smashed my faith in her to pieces. "You didn't screw up, man," Tyler said, dead serious. "She was playing puppet master. Walking out was the smart move." His take was like a faint light cutting through that dark day, and it eased me a bit knowing at least one person got where I was coming from. But I needed more than a buddy's pat on the back. I had to dig up solid proof that Emily's blow-up wasn't some one-off fluke, it was part of something way shadier. After wrapping up with Tyler, I rang my mom, Linda, who didn't hold back her irritation the second I brought up Emily's crap. I never trusted her from the jump, she snapped, her disappointment loud and clear. No gal who's really in love would drag her man through the mud like that. Her words hit hard but backed up what I'd already been thinking. I was mad as hell for being played, yet weirdly relieved to have folks in my corner who cared. Pretty soon, my phone lit up with a call from Detective Ryan Carter. Ryan's this PI I'd hired before, a guy who could sniff out the dirty details in a mess too knotted up for me to untangle alone. When I picked up, his tone was cool and straight to the point. "I've been poking around Emily's past," he said. "There's stuff here that's not adding up." My pulse kicked up as he kept talking, laying out how he'd found sketchy money moves and a bunch of sneaky messages that screamed lies and manipulation. I hung on every word, feeling like the floor was wobbling under me again. "Listen, you gotta know this," Ryan pressed. "She might have been scheming this whole time. There's proof she siphoned a big chunk of cash from your joint account before the wedding even happened." That hit me like another punch to the face, each detail making the betrayal sink in deeper. The more he spilled, the clearer it got that my hurt wasn't some random fluke, it was part of a cold, calculated setup. Ryan's digging showed Emily'd been chatting with this guy, Jake Miller, her old flame, and there were money trails between them I couldn't explain. Realizing I might have just been her fallback plan, a tool for her to use, lit a quiet rage in me I couldn't shove down. "Keep digging," I told Ryan, my voice steady even though I was shaking inside from the pain. "Track down every link, every dirty little secret. I need the whole ugly truth." That call flipped a switch in me. I started seeing my loneliness not as a dead end but as a push to do something about it. I hit up old pals, relatives who'd never bought Emily's act, and anyone who might have known her before she crashed into my world. Every chat, every phone call, was like stacking another piece into the backbone of my new grit, my drive to take back my pride and figure out how she'd fooled me. A few days later, I sat down with Ryan at this low-key cafe, flipping through bank records and secret emails, trying to crack the code of Emily's real game. His chill, pro vibe kept me grounded, even as the proof piled up darker than I'd feared. "It's all right here," he said quiet-like, nodding at some transactions that stuck out like a sore thumb. "She was setting you up, man, using your trust like a shield." Each bit of evidence locked in my worst nightmares, but every new twist gave me a boost of strength. I wasn't just some sap caught in a hot-headed moment anymore, I was turning into a guy who owned his fate. With Tyler's solid backup, my mom's tough love ringing in my ears, and Ryan's non-stop hunt for the facts, I started pulling together my crew of supporters. This wasn't about getting even, it was about yanking my life back from someone who'd stabbed me in the back worse than I could have imagined. I scribbled down names, set up meetups, and braced myself for the showdown I knew was coming. I could almost feel the heft of every hushed talk and backroom deal, like each one was a stride toward settling a score that had been a long time coming. Sitting in that softly lit cafe, rain pattering on the glass, a fresh fire sparked inside me. That wedding day betrayal had sliced deep, but it also burned off the haze that had been clouding my head too long. I was set to face the truth, no matter how brutal, and do what it took to make sure Emily's double-cross didn't shape the rest of my days. Every talk, every scrap of proof, wasn't just building a team, it was me piecing myself back together from the wreck of a dream gone sour. When I stepped out of that cafe that night, the city lights glowing like far-off promises, I knew I was ready to push back, spill the truth, and finally grab the guts to keep going. I was holed up in my little apartment, the faint glow of one lamp throwing long shadows across the walls as I kept running that awful day through my head. Emily's betrayal still stung fresh, but now this nagging question started chewing at me: what did I miss all this time? With Ryan Carter's bombshells bouncing around in my skull, I figured I had to hunt for answers on my own. I kicked off by digging through every second of that day in my mind, trying to pin down the little hints, the frosty looks from Emily's parents, the hard edge in her voice that wasn't normal, and how she'd dodge eye contact whenever we got into talking about what's next. Stuff I'd shrugged off as no big deal back then now felt like clues pointing to some buried truth waiting to get dragged into the light. Hell-bent on figuring it out, I flipped open my laptop and started scrolling through emails and texts from the weeks before the wedding. I remembered how Emily'd started pulling away bit by bit, steering clear of money talks with quick subject switches, or cutting phone calls short like she had something to hide. I pulled up every bank statement we'd shared, and bam, there it was, a fat transfer I'd never clocked before, cash yanked out of our joint account a whole week before the big day. My stomach dropped when it clicked. This wasn't some impulse buy, it was deliberate, sneaky, and covered up tight. I dialed Ryan to double-check what I was guessing. His voice came through, calm and sharp, slicing into my racing thoughts. "It's bigger than just that one move," he said. "I've been digging through records, and it looks like Emily had secret accounts and ties you never even knew existed." Every word Ryan dropped felt like a punch to the gut. The thought that Emily, the girl I'd poured my heart into, could hide such heavy secrets tore me up inside, but it lit this fire in me to dig into every shady nook of her secret world. I told Ryan to round up every scrap he could get his hands on, bank records, contacts, anything, hoping it'd all add up to a clear snapshot of what she was really up to. While he was at it, I took a hard look back at our time together. I kept thinking about those moments when Emily's phone would ping and she'd swipe those messages away the second I walked in, or those nights she'd slip outside for hushed calls, and how she'd clam up whenever I asked about her past. I sat there for hours, poring over our shared money papers, and spotted gaps that sketched out a nasty story. It was like she'd been living two lives, one playing the sweet fiancé for me, and another tangled up in plots I couldn't even dream up. Every page I flipped just chipped away more of the trust I'd had. Ryan hit me up later with some cold, hard proof. "I tracked down some cash moves tied to this guy, Jake Miller," he said. "Looks like they were tight way before you came into the picture." His voice stayed even, but each sentence sliced deeper into that betrayal wound. I went numb, soaking in the idea that the woman I adored might have just used me as a rung on her ladder, or worse, a chess piece in her big game. That bombshell made me rethink everything through a raw, aching filter. All those little things I'd brushed off as mix-ups started looking like red flags I'd been too dumb to catch. The more I pieced together, the madder I got, but there was this odd freedom creeping in too. The truth, buried under piles of her lies for so long, was finally spilling out like some twisted tale staring me right in the face. It dawned on me that the Emily I'd planned my life around wasn't real. She'd been running a double game, pulling strings to lock in her own wins, even if it meant throwing me under the bus, the guy who'd loved her. Right then, I felt this spark of grit kick in, a fierce itch to take my life back and shine a light on what she'd really done. When I shut my laptop and sank back in my chair, all that evidence weighed on me like a ton of bricks. The truth wasn't tucked away in rumors or half-baked guesses anymore, it was right there in black and white, in bank slips, texts, and the quiet stabs of our everyday life. I knew facing it wouldn't bring back that wedding day glow, but it'd give me the juice to push ahead and rebuild with some real honesty and pride. I muttered to myself that I was worth more than her sneaky games and bullshit, and as the night got darker, my determination to let the truth cut me loose grew stronger. I was camped out in a quiet spot at my go-to-coffee joint, trying to calm my pounding heart and sort through the mess of feelings that had been drowning me since that damn wedding. Emily's moves, the shame, the backstabbing, kept looping in my head like a broken record. I knew I had to face the facts, no matter how much they hurt, and today, those facts were smacking me square in the face with no way to dodge. Scrolling my phone, I spotted another text from Emily. "Just 3 little words, you overreacted." I stared at it, my gut twisting up tight. She was trying to shrink what went down, acting like that ugly slap and my pain were just some silly overblown thing. Total gaslighting move, messing with my head to make me second-guess myself. I thought back to how she'd waved it off before, saying I should have just said sorry since she was stressed. But deep down, I knew it wasn't stress, it was her pulling a calculated, mean stunt. I shut my eyes and relived that awful second when her hand cracked across my face, a move that floored me and everyone watching. My heart thumped with rage and hurt all mixed up. It felt like she'd stomped all over my pride, and now, as I tried to wrap my head around how bad she'd screwed me, her words were twisting the story. She was trying to rewrite how I felt, make me doubt the ache I was carrying. Overreacted? I mumbled under my breath, my voice shaky with disbelief. I knew damn well I wasn't blowing it out of proportion. I had every right to feel crushed and double-crossed. That afternoon, with the cool fall breeze tapping at the coffee shop windows, I decided to ring Ryan for the latest on his digging. His steady voice on the line was a solid reminder I wasn't in this fight alone. "I just wrapped up the last bits of this mess," he said, low and calm. "The money trail and texts don't lie. Emily was gearing up to ditch you after locking down everything for herself." His words landed like a sledgehammer. I sat there, half dead inside, as he broke it down. She didn't just swipe a wad of cash from our account, she'd been cozying up to Jake Miller, her ex, way before I ever showed up. Ryan laid out how every shred of proof showed she'd been plotting every step to come out on top, all at my expense. While he talked, fury and sadness swirled inside me, hitting a wall I couldn't climb over. It clicked that all those warning signs, the brush-offs, the hush-hush calls, the quick hang-ups, were pieces of her big, sneaky plan. I felt like an idiot for missing them, but even more, I was pissed as hell that the girl I loved could be so two-faced and ruthless. I thought about those late nights we'd spent mapping out our future, dreaming big together, and how she'd sworn honesty was her thing. Now, all that felt like smoke, every memory a sharp jab at the trust I'd handed over. This fierce urge to take back my pride and my life started bubbling up strong. "I'm done living this lie," I told Ryan. "I've gotta tackle this straight on." His mix of cool-headed confidence and real empathy gave me the guts to finally face the wreck of what we'd had. That night, I made up my mind to text Emily back. My fingers lingered over the keys as I hammered out something straight and firm. "I know what you pulled," I typed, each letter loaded with pain and steel. I told her I was through with her tricks, her lies, and her mind games. I wasn't letting her call the shots on how I felt or rewrite what was real. I hit send, and right away, this weird blend of relief and nerves washed over me. Laying out my truth like that kicked off something I couldn't take back. The next few hours dragged on forever. Every phone buzz jolted me with dread, but I kept my mouth shut, refusing to get sucked back into her web of control that had eaten up our whole deal. I kept replaying that wedding day, her voice, the shock of that slap, the judgy stares all around, and I let myself feel every damn bit of it. Owning that hurt was what gave me the strength to ditch whatever trust one still had in her. By the time midnight rolled around, the anger and grief started melting into this solid plan to grab hold of my future. I saw it clear, this was my line in the sand, the point where I said no more to being Emily's doormat. I swore to myself I'd turn this crap into a launch pad, building a life my way, out from under her lies and betrayal's shadow. Right there, in that still, solitary second, it clicked for me. This breaking point wasn't the finish line, it was the kickoff to a whole new story, one where I'd never let anybody twist my reality again. That text I'd fired off was just the first move in taking back my voice, my pride, and my damn life. Sitting there, with the city's quiet rumble outside and this steady grit building up in my chest, I knew the hurt was real as hell, but I was ready to tackle what's next, loaded with the truth and a stubborn streak no mind games could ever crack. I was parked in my study, my heart feeling like a lead weight, but this fierce drive started bubbling up as I glared at the proof glowing on my laptop. I figured hashing it out with Emily one-on-one would just get me more of her slick lies and warped excuses. Nah, I decided it was time to lay it all out for everybody, just like she'd put me on blast. With Ryan's rock-solid backup and a stack of evidence showing her two-faced ways, I was dead set on grabbing the reins of my life again. I got to work plotting out a get-together that'd be my big reveal spot. I burned hours on calls and hunched over my computer, rounding up buddies, family, even a couple of Emily's tightest pals, the ones who'd seen the real her, the chick hiding under all that fake sweetness and charm. I nailed down every detail, picking a spot we all knew, somewhere cozy yet open, where the vibe would crackle with honesty. I wanted it personal but public, a place where betrayal's quiet mutters could finally turn into loud, no doubt about it shouts. The day rolled around, and I stepped into the venue with a mix of nerves and hype, my pulse thumping hard. I sucked in a big breath, scanning the room as it filled up slow with faces, childhood pals, co-workers who'd watched me change, and even some of Emily's crew, now itching to know what was up. It felt like every pair of eyes was locked on me, waiting for when I'd finally spill my guts. Emily showed up, thinking I was there to grovel, cool as ever on the outside. But her eyes popped wide when she caught the steel in my stare. I saw a flash of doubt cross her face before she plastered on that fake calm again. Too late, though, the show was already rolling. I grabbed the mic, my hands shaking a bit as I fiddled with it. The room went dead quiet, like time hit the brakes for a second. "Thanks for showing up tonight, y'all," I started, keeping my voice level even with the chaos churning inside. "I got you here to set things straight and drop some hard truths that've been buried way too long." Every word was weighed out, every line built to carry the raw sting and backstabbing I'd been through. Then I took a deep gulp of air and hit play on the remote Ryan handed me. Up on the projector, pics and papers flashed to life, bank transfer shots, text copies, emails that drew a nasty outline. It was crystal clear, Emily had yanked a fat pile of cash from our account a week before the wedding. The moves were too slick to be random. Plus, there was dirt on her secret tie to Jake Miller, her ex, a guy who'd been lurking in her past like a ghost. The crowd gasped loud as they soaked in the jaw-dropping show. I watched Emily's face drain white, her smug front falling apart right there for all to see. "This is what's real," I went on, my voice ringing with hurt and steel. "This is the chick you all thought you knew, someone who didn't just shame me in front of everybody but trashed our future and my trust, hiding her plans to bolt with an old flame." Her weak comeback got swallowed by the room's grumbles and sour looks. I could see the fire in the eyes of folks who'd always had my back, and even some of Emily's buddies started squirming in their chairs. Power surged through me as the proof peeled back her true self. I wasn't the quiet punching bag eating humiliation after humiliation anymore, I was the guy taking his respect back, right in front of everyone who counted. I paused to let my words hit home. "I put my faith in you, and you shattered it," I said, easing up a touch as I talked to the room. "I bought into talk of loyalty and truth, and got lies and double-crossing instead. I'm not here tonight for payback, just the facts. I need y'all to see what went down behind the scenes so you get why I've gotta ditch this messed up part of my life." The place buzzed with heavy vibes, shock, sadness, even some anger on those faces. I could feel the truth's muscle flexing, a quiet agreement rippling through everybody there. Emily tried piping up, her voice small and wobbly, but I threw up a hand to shut her down. "This is who I tied the knot with," I said flat out, my words landing hard in the hush. "A woman who picked her own wants over our promises, who used what we had to cover up what she was really after." I wrapped it up with, "I'm standing here now, not some busted-up dude, but a guy who's finally got the balls to live in the truth's light." With that, the projector kept rolling out the ugly evidence, and the room blew up with whispers and yells. Right then, this load lifted off me, I'd taken the first real step to patching myself up and starting over. Stepping off that stage, I caught the looks of folks rooting for me and the guilty stares from ones who'd bought Emily's act before. The road ahead was gonna be a haul, full of more hurdles, but for the first time in forever, I felt free, a guy set on moving ahead, no longer dragged down by betrayal's gloom. I walked into a room that hit me colder than anything I'd ever felt, whispers and murmurs spinning around like a sharp, bitter breeze. It was the fallout from that big reveal, where the truth I'd dropped had torn through Emily's fake little universe. I stood there, watching her good name, built on sweet talk and pretty grins, crash and burn in front of everybody. Her best pals pulled back, stunned, and her bridesmaids, who used to hang on her every word, just turned away quiet. That second, I felt this weird mashup of grief and ease. The cover she'd hid behind was toast, leaving nothing but the bare truth I dreaded but had to face now. As the screens flashed her secret cash deals, the room filled with choked gasps and low disapproval. Everybody saw it plain as day. Emily'd been slipping money to Jake Miller, that shadow from her past who'd always been creeping around. The muttering got louder, and soon her folks, who'd sat all high and mighty at their table, started grumbling their own second thoughts. Her dad, who'd had this cocky smirk before, now shot her a look of pure disgust. I heard some guest choke out, "What did you do?" and it landed like one last kick to the chest. Emily, who'd been holding her ground with fake innocence just minutes ago, started crumbling slow. I watched her tough act break into pieces. She dropped to her knees, eyes shaky and begging. "Please," she breathed, barely loud enough over the crowd's hush, "let me make this right." Right then, every lie she'd spun, every secret she'd stashed, was out for all to gawk at. This icy clearness settled over me. I bent down close, steady but loaded with the hurt she'd dealt. "You made it right when you smacked me," I said, every word dragging up that moment that flipped everything. That slap still burned on my face, a badge of the shame I'd taken, and now it stood for all the trust she'd smashed. I could see it in her eyes, she knew the jig was up, all her careful lies crashing down hard. Friends who'd rallied around her before looked away or muttered to each other, their belief in her gone. The room sagged with regret, and even her old defenders couldn't choke out a word under the truth's weight. In that quiet, I felt it all lock in. I'd built my world on promises that ended up hollow, and now I saw she'd mapped out every play with a cold edge that didn't give a damn about me. I stood there, watching her life unravel bit by bit, and this deep ache, mixed with a rising grit, dug into my heart. It wasn't just losing what we'd planned, it was the whole future I'd pictured, full of trust, love, and respect. All I had left was a path of busted dreams and empty words, screaming that I'd been just a piece in her chess game. As I spun around to head out of that room, I could feel everybody's eyes tracking me, some full of pity, others throwing quiet shade. Deep down, I knew bailing was the only shot I had to grab back the respect Emily had ripped away from me so viciously. Every stride I took was pushing me closer to a life without all her lies, a place where that awful day, the one that smashed her fake world to bits, wouldn't keep messing with my head. I stepped into the crisp night, the cold sinking right into my bones as I let the dark roll over me, not just the lack of light, but a sign that Emily's grip on my heart was done. Right then, I made a deal with myself. No way was I letting her empty promises and sneaky plans call the shots for me anymore. The hurt cut deep, sure, but it was also the spark I needed to start fresh, a chance to take what she'd done and build something real, grounded in honesty. Emily's web of lies falling apart was the game changer, a rough but gotta-happen end to a story soaked in her double-dealing. Walking off, I knew I wasn't just ditching a busted marriage but also the old me, the guy chained up by trust I'd handed out too easy. I was jumping into the deep end, loaded with what I'd learned in a hardcore drive to carve out a future that was mine for real. That courtroom hit me colder than any winter night I'd ever shivered through, every chair in there like a front-row seat to my past coming undone. I sat there, my heart heavy as hell and my thoughts racing, gearing up for a legal fight I never saw coming. The divorce mess was brutal, no sugarcoating it. I had to sit through every piece of our marriage getting picked apart, every promise I'd bought into now flipped into proof of her backstabbing. Emily, who used to own every room with her confidence, was across from me now, her eyes hollowed out, that cool act of hers cracking under the pile of evidence I'd brought. My lawyer, a guy who'd handled plenty of train wrecks like this, leaned in close and murmured, "You're worth more than this, man, and you got out right when you needed to." His words patched up my bruised ego a bit, but they also reminded me of the war I was stepping into. The stuff I'd scraped together with Ryan's help was airtight, a straight-up roadmap of her money games, secret transfers, and texts that showed what she was really after. Every slip of paper, every file, every recorded word sketched out a woman who'd been plotting to use me for her own score. When it all kicked off, the judge's steady stare swept the room, and I felt naked under that silent once-over. Every second that got me here flashed back, the slap at the wedding, her harsh words, the trust she'd torched, and it all hit me again, clear and painful as ever. When my turn came, I got up, keeping my voice solid even though I was a wreck inside. "I'm here to lay out the truth," I said, talking to the judge and everybody else in there. "I put my faith in the woman I loved, and she turned it into a cover for her secrets and tricks. I've got the proof that I was just her backup plan, and I deserve my pride back." Emily's lawyer tried spinning my feelings as some big overreaction, hinting I was too hung up on my ego to see straight. I sat there while they pushed that my hurt was blown out of proportion, but I knew the real story was right there in the bank logs and messages already on the table. I could still hear Ryan's calm voice breaking down how she'd shuffled cash and kept hidden accounts, all in a pattern you couldn't argue with. Every peek at that evidence stung with betrayal, but it fueled this growing fire in me too. I wasn't just here to take back what was mine, I was here to rip the lid off the lie that flipped my life upside down. The trial dragged me back through every humiliating moment. I thought about that chilly fall night after the wedding, dodging calls, and the flood of texts from folks who cared. Each memory was a cut starting to scab over, thanks to the strength I was pulling together. I answered every question steady, walking them through it all, the empty wine glasses, that gut punch slap, and the final, agonizing call to walk away. I needed the judge, the jury, everybody there to get that I wasn't just caught in bad luck, I was a guy screwed over by someone I'd given my heart to. Weeks rolled by, and the legal slugfest got uglier. Emily threw everything at it, fake stories, sob sessions, even playing like she was the one wronged, but all her moves got shredded by the hard proof I'd laid out. The judge stayed tough but fair, really hearing me out as I went over that brutal day and how I uncovered her secret life bit by bit. One time, in a long stretch of testimony, I could feel every hushed word and sideways look, like the whole damn world was watching me tear down a lie that used to be my everything. After one killer day in there, my hands were trembling as I skimmed the last arguments from both sides. My lawyer locked eyes with me and said soft, "This is it, man. Truth's about to cut you loose." His sureness gave me the juice to push through the next round. When the judge dropped the verdict, it came with this quiet weight that shut down any arguing. "With the evidence so clear, I'm ruling for the petitioner," he said, his voice bouncing around the hushed room. Right then, I felt this huge wave of relief crash over me, tangled up with sadness, relief that the legal hell was done, and sorrow for losing the trust and love that used to mean everything to me. Emily just sat there, quiet as a ghost, staring at the floor while everything she'd stacked up slipped through her fingers. For me, that courtroom clash wasn't just some judge's call, it was a game changer, the hard stop to a saga full of her double-crossing. Walking out of there that day, I had this feeling of being squared up. I'd battled for what was real, and yeah, the marks from that fight weren't going anywhere, but I knew I was finally cut loose to build my life back on solid ground, with some real self-worth. Every step I took away from that place pulled me further out of Emily's lying shadow and closer to a tomorrow where I could finally patch myself up. I hopped off the bus in Texas, the afternoon sun blasting down like it was promising me a clean slate. All that New York noise and the madness of that cursed wedding were starting to blur out, swapped for dusty trails and big, open skies in my new spot. I'd ditched a life pieced together with broken trust and sour betrayal, and now every move I made felt like I was inching toward a future that was all mine. Down in Texas, I stumbled into this calm I'd figured was long gone. I started seeing how every rough patch, every cutting word and that degrading slap, had dragged me here, to a place where I could hit reset without Emily's bullshit weighing me down daily. My routine turned into this mix of honest sweat and chill downtime. Mornings, I'd mess with a little garden I'd kicked off by my new digs, coaxing green out of the dirt, a simple fix that smoothed out the chaos I'd left behind. Afternoons, I'd cruise down endless roads, letting my mind wander ahead instead of circling back. I linked up again with Tyler and my mom, who'd made the trek from New York to see me. Their big grins and rock-steady vibes hammered home that I wasn't riding this out alone. Having them around was proof that even after betrayal sliced me deep, love and loyalty could still stitch me back up. Weeks stretched into months, and I could feel those heart scars softening, traded out for this careful hope that maybe tomorrow wouldn't kick me like yesterday did. My phone still chirped now and then with texts and calls, mostly buddies checking in or folks I'd met around here who started digging the quiet grit I was clawing back. I was piecing together a new gig, full of straight-up work, laughs over basic grub, and peaceful nights under a star-packed sky. Then one day, as I was locking up my little workshop, my phone went off out of the blue. Seeing Emily's name flash up sent a chill down my back. My hand froze over the button for a sec, old hurt crashing in, but it mixed with this tough edge I'd been building for months. My heart was banging, but I took a slow breath and picked up. "Emily," I said, cool but with a hard line in my tone. There was a beat of nothing before she came back, her voice wobbly, unsure. "Can we talk?" she said, like she thought she could patch up what she'd smashed to hell. I listened close, but I knew every chat we'd ever had just sucked me back into her web of lies and head games. Right then, it hit me, I'd gotten to a spot where more talking would just throw me off the healing track I was on. "Nah, Emily, we're done," I said plain and firm, the words carrying all that final weight. I hung up, and with every tick of the clock, the past's grip slid off me. That moment locked it in. I was slamming shut a door on a stretch that had given me nothing but grief and betrayal. That call was the last hit, the final nudge that I'd once been a piece in Emily's twisted puzzle. I plopped down on the beat-up steps outside my shop, the warm Texas air wrapping around me like a nod that I was free at last. It sank in that cutting her off wasn't losing, it was winning, the last step in taking my life and pride back. The wedding mess, that slap, the public shitshow, all her lying echoes, were just faint noise now in a life I was hell-bent on rebuilding. In the stillness after, I chewed over the long, brutal road that landed me here. Those endless nights doubting everything, days when every ring felt like a punch, times I was so alone the future looked pitch black. But staring up at that wide Texas sky, I saw nothing but chances, a sign I was calling the shots now. Every day was a shot to shape a life not tied to old betrayals but lifted by the guts and bounce back I'd found in me. That last blow wasn't about rage or getting even, it was the move I had to make to shake off the memories that used to own me. It was this clear flash where I got that clinging to the hurt would just keep me locked to a past I was done with. I leaned into the alone time, knowing it was my sidekick on this healing gig. I let myself feel the sting of what I'd lost, but I also soaked in the buzz of starting over. As the sun dipped low and the night cooled off, I took a deep breath and cracked a smile thinking about what's next. I'd made it through Emily's crap, took that final hit, and came out tougher, dead set on living straight and calm. Those scars might stick around, but they'd just be markers of the strength that hauled me through the worst. And with that strength, I found the nerve to really move on, leaving a past that couldn't touch me anymore. I woke up one sharp morning, the soft sun sneaking through my window, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I bought into the idea of a real fresh start. All those heart bruises, every jagged memory of Emily's betrayal, were fading out like a storm that had blown through. I'd set up a new life in Texas, one not haunted by old pain but shaped by the steady toughness I'd tapped into being on my own. Now, I was ready to grab every day like it was a present, a chance to remake myself my way. First thing was owning up to the ride that got me here. That cold, biting slap that wrecked my wedding day still stuck with me, along with the fallout that made me ditch a life full of her fakes. I used to feel busted, wandering New York's empty streets with just anger and betrayal pumping through me. But out here in Texas, with all this wide open land and endless sky, I started getting that every step up was a step out of the hurt, heading towards something whole. I filled my days hooking back up with nature and the easy beats of life I'd lost track of. Mornings, I'd poke around my little garden, teasing life out of the dirt with slow, steady hands, each new sprout screaming that good stuff can grow even after the roughest cold snap. Afternoons, I'd roam quiet paths or kick back on my weathered porch, where neighbor laughs and the far-off hum of small-town living mixed into this soothing tune. Those were my thinkin' times, moments that let me patch up not just my days but the broken bits of me inside. Nature's quiet chats kept me company, the leaves rustling in a light wind, crickets humming at dusk, they were my crew every day. With each one that passed, the past got fuzzier, swapped for this careful hope whispering about a tomorrow free from Emily's lying shade. I started letting folks in again, Tyler, my ride or die from way back, and family who swung by to remind me I was still worth something. Their warm words and solid support were the base of this new setup, a bedrock made of grit and the slow roll of getting better. Nights were my chill zone for looking inward. Out on the porch, I'd watch the sun drop, painting the sky orange and purple, and I'd let myself feel the ache of what was gone and the kick of what's coming. In that quiet, it hit me, one tough chapter ending was just another one starting. Those old cuts might not ever fully vanish, but they weren't running the show in my head anymore. I'd figured out real strength was owning what happened, cutting myself slack for trusting too easy, and betting on something brighter. One night, nursing a strong coffee and staring at the stars, I swore to myself, no one's bullshit was ever gonna steer my happiness again. I grabbed a beat-up leather journal and started scratching out dreams and plans, every word a middle finger to the past that had held me down. I pictured a life with real work, true connections, and growing into me. I'd dive into new stuff, pick up tricks to beef up my days and crack open doors, maybe even to a love built on straight-up respect and trust. Every sunrise patched me up a bit more, put me more in charge of where I was headed. Emily's betrayal still hung out in the back of my mind, but it wasn't me anymore, it was just a nudge about what I'd learned and the muscle I'd built. I took each day with a thank you, knowing the path ahead might twist, but it was lined with shots at starting new. I wasn't bolting from what was, I was strolling toward a future where I ran my own show, free from the chains of old lies. That's how, slow and steady, my new life kicked off, one where hope and bounce back beat out the darkest echoes, and every fresh minute was a do-over waiting to happen. Thanks for joining us on Top Stories Hub. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below.